Generic greetings. I had several requests to do a video showcasing other YouTubers that I watch, and so I did that, and many people seem to enjoy it, so I thought I would do a bit of a follow-up. Now, the previous video was only accurate as of the time recording, as will this be, but also it was not an exhaustive list by far. It only featured 20 YouTubers, and then with some notable mentions on top. This one's even less. It's only going to be 10, because I plan on making this a either monthly or bi-monthly thing, so every month or two, I'll go through and do another updated list, things like that. And one of the things I hoped would come out of the other video was that people would recommend things that I might like, and that's exactly what happened, and half the things on this list came from that comment section, so that's fantastic. So what I want to do in this video is go through another 10 YouTubers and just feature them and explain why I like them and why I'm enjoying them at the moment. As I said, it's only accurate as of the time recording, and if they're not on this list, it doesn't mean I'm not watching them, it's just these are the ones I'm heavily into at the moment. As I said before in the previous video, I have no association with these people, I don't know them. For most of the majority, I've hardly even exchanged a tweet with. I don't know what they do in their private life, whether it be stab kittens with dead puppies. I really don't know. I just like this stuff on the YouTube channel. So here we go. Let's go through them, and starting with BigClive.com. This guy is called Clive and apparently is quite big, hence the channel name. He's also an electronics genius who will take any old assorted electronic item and then take it apart, reverse engineer it, and then go through how it works, show you the circuit diagram, and explain what is good about it, what is bad, things like that. It was a recommendation in the previous video's comments when I said I like photonic induction. People said, oh, you should check out Big Clive, and he's a fairly productive fellow. He seems to put out a couple of videos at least per week, and that could be from an LED bulb to a charger to making random assorted beverages. So something I would really recommend. He makes a very, I wouldn't say dull subject, because if you are into electronics, then by all means, you know, you're going to be into this, but it takes something that is it's actually could be a dry subject, I guess, or someone like me who doesn't necessarily have a really big interest in electronics, but I find it interesting because he does explain things, and you actually learn something, which is always interesting as well. But either way, BigClive.com, good at taking things apart and explaining what is good, what is crap, and just generally entertaining. Death Wears Bunny Slippers is a relatively new channel. In fact, as of the time of recording, it's less than 3 weeks old, I think. Now, it's essentially someone opening up a disused Titan II missile silo, so showing you what happens when you A, buy one, and B, the headache of actually trying to open it and drain out the water and then exploring it, things like that. It's something that, when I found, I think it was on Reddit, I thought, wow, this could be something interesting, and it is. It's currently in its very early stages as a channel, and I don't know how far it's going to go, whether or not it's going to be quite long or short, I have no idea. What I think I read is that he's recorded 6 years of footage from getting a Titan II missile silo and then, you know, going to expand it and opening it and things like that. So hopefully the journey of the channel will be quite good and seeing all of that. So if you like the idea of someone going around and taking a disused nuclear missile launching facility into something that is livable, then check it out. Forgotten Weapons is a channel that I stumbled across when I was doing some research for Delta Force Land Warrior game I did a nostalgia video on, because in that game there's a weapon called a Pancor jackhammer, which is a semi-automatic shotgun, or maybe it's an automatic shotgun, I can't remember. Either way, I was fairly sure it was a prototype weapon, but I wanted to get that checked out, so I did a quick check on YouTube about this thing, and sure enough, Forgotten Weapons video came up going through the Pancor jackhammer, and I stuck around. The thing is, I don't really have any interest at all in weapons or firearms or anything like that, but this guy will take a weapon. It might necessarily not be a forgotten one or one that's very unknown, but it could be anything really, and he'll go through what the weapon is, what it did, the history of it, the things that might be good or bad about it or went wrong, or why it stayed a prototype, and just went through the history of it and makes it quite interesting without just being a guy going, right, here's a gun, let's fire it into a tree, which I don't have any interest at all in. But I like the history of these things, and especially the weird weapons. Like, I think one of the latest videos he did was like on a custom-made 1911 copy. I think it was like a Vietnamese copy and stuff like that, and it just shows you like the crude manufacture, and just, it's like things like that are quite interesting. And not necessarily the subject matter of it being about firearms, but just like the forgotten part of something mechanical. But either way, I've been sticking around, been going through them videos. Grand Illusions is one of the most positive and uplifting channels I have on my subscription list, and the reason I say that is because essentially it's just a guy called Tim who has 20,000 assorted items, whether it be toys, games, magic tricks, other random artifacts that he likes, has an extreme passion for, and just wants to show them to you. And that's really missing from especially YouTube, where a lot of channels are about drama or conflict or things like that. This is just a guy who has interesting things and wants to show them to you, and that comes across. Like, it reminds me of those good old-fashioned 90s television shows, like family fun entertainment. It's not offensive, it doesn't have any agenda, it's quite naive in a sense, and I really like it because of that. You know, if you want to see a channel that goes, look, here's a toy train, it moves in an interesting way. Here's a box, they have to tap it in different areas to open it up. Things like that. It's just interesting and fun and non-offensive, and just something that I really think we should have more of. And by all means, if you know more channels like this, let me know, because I would love to check it out. Grand Illusions, it's good. It's fun. There's nothing more I can really say about that. Hell on Earth is an urban exploring channel, urbex essentially being people wandering around abandoned buildings, factories, warehouses, bunkers, things like that. Now, if there's any one channel on this list that deserves your attention, it's these guys. Not just because they wander around abandoned places, not just because they're funny as shit, but because their videos are some of the best shot, well-produced videos I've seen on YouTube in a long time. The amount of work and effort that must go into each one of these, I just can't fathom. They go around with several cameras and then edit it all together. They have beautiful drone shots, and they take the absolute piss out of each other, which is really, really funny. Like, 1 minute they could be taking the piss out of someone because they've tripped over, the next they could find a contaminated waste barrel in a abandoned RAF station. It's just really, really, it's not right that they have so few subscribers. I don't know whether that's just because they're relatively new, although no, they're over a year old, I think. I think it might be because, well, the typical old YouTube problem of if you're not big, good looking, getting found. Also, it might be a niche subject, but honestly, even if you have no interest in urban exploration, they're just funny anyway, and you probably actually get into it because of it. Either way, if there's any one channel, like I say, that deserves your attention, just for the sheer amount of work that must go into each one of these, then by all means, check them out. I found them randomly when I was searching for something totally non-related, and I binge-watched all of their videos in a weekend. So, yeah, Hell on Earth, check them out, fantastic. IKS Exploration is another urbex channel, but more focused around the history of things. So he'll go to an area and explain the history of either the bunker he's went into, or the tower, or the place, wherever, and explain what it was built for, when it was built, what happened to it, what its lifespan was, what generally went on there, things like that. One of my favourite things he does is like bunker exploration, and one of them is, I think it's like an ROC post, Royal Observer Corps, where he'll go into these very, very small, essentially underground sheds, where it'll be people sitting in there waiting for the bombs to drop in the Cold War, and that'll be able to tell you like the power of the bomb, and he'll explain like what happened, where the indicators were, and stuff like that. Like I say, more history than perhaps some of the other channels, but I like that, and it is interesting to just to learn a bit as well about these things that are essentially forgotten. So yeah, it's a little bit drier than perhaps some of the other channels that I've mentioned, but yeah, good, still very good. Periodic Videos is another one of those channels that could be really boring in the hands of other people. So it's essentially about chemistry, and it could be treated in a really boring, horrible, monotonous way where someone goes through X element and explains why it reacts with Y element, and here's a picture of the reaction. No, they don't do that. They go, what would happen if we put lithium into Jägermeister or something and just fling it in and go, hey, that's what happens. What they'll do, they'll make it more scientific than that. They'll explain, right, well, we think this should happen, and because of these reasons, then they'll do it and go, oh, it might not have happened that way, let's find out why. And apart from them being explosions and other very energetic effects on there, it's just interesting as well, and over 800,000 people agree, so you might want to check it out. RC Sparks Studio is about radio-controlled hobbyists and their items and their creations, and essentially it's about remote-controlled vehicles. Something that was suggested in the previous video's comments. I thought, oh, I'll check it out, and then found myself watching a video about remote-control cars doing a power pull for 40 minutes. And I have no interest in remote control vehicles. I played with them as a kid. I haven't used a radio-controlled item, device, whatever, in probably 10 plus years. So why on earth am I watching this? because it's interesting. Because it's interesting to see people with a passion for something that is maybe not niche, but is something that you can have a look at and go, oh, well, that's an interesting hobby. Maybe I'll get into that. I can't see me getting into it personally, but it's good watching people who say, right, here's a remote control car and it's got these tyres on this specific suspension. This is what we're going to do. And then they just end up like doing a drag race or a power pull or just driving around and stuff. It's, again, a channel that YouTube was sort of built for. What could be quite a niche hobby that not many people would get into, but is very accessible because it's on YouTube, and that's fantastic. Spacedock is a channel about spaceships, not like the Saturn V rocket or anything like that, but about fictional spaceships like Mass Effect Sovereign or Battlestar Galactica Raptor, or pretty much any spaceship from any sci-fi series or television show, game, etc. And the guy will pick a spaceship, explain what it is, where it's from, what its dimensions are, what it can do, what the history of it is, and just goes through it. Essentially, one of the nerdiest channels you can pretty much find, but utterly captivating. If you have any interest in spaceships, you understand. If you don't, then by all means move on. But I think I was searching for just some Stargate stuff, and I come across the channel because he did like I think it was a video on it was either the O'Neill class or the Daedalus. Or it might be in Prometheus now. I can't remember. I think he's done videos on all three, to be honest with you. But he'll go through it and explain it, and you'll get to see nice shots from the show or film or whatever. But extremely niche, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Well, I guess it does if you don't have any interest at all in spaceships. But I do, which is why I watch it and have watched almost all of his videos. Spacedock. It's about spaceships, obviously. Shut Up and Sit Down is a tabletop gaming channel that focuses on card games, board games, RPGs, playthroughs, war games, whether it be pre-painted miniatures or otherwise, your standard war game stuff. All games and things that I have an interest in and have played for years and still play quite a bit of. And the thing is, the reason I like Shut Up and Sit Down is because they strike a very nice middle ground. There's a lot of board game and war gaming and just general tabletop channels, and they tend to go one way or the other. You've got your very accessible things like Will Wheaton's Tabletop and Geek and Sundry, and then you've got the other way, which is things like the Dice Tower, Tom Vassell stuff, things like that. And the reason I like Shut Up and Sit Down is because not only do they go through a game and say, look, here's a game, this is how it plays, this is what you'll be doing in it, and here's our recommendation or not, or why we think it's good or bad. But they also make sure to point out and express it, and you can see when they're playing it and doing these things that they're enjoying it, and they say, look, it's not just, well, it's very rarely about what you're playing, it's about the company you keep and who you've got there and how you do it. And I like that. They're not just playing games that they think are good and would recommend, and generally do like decent, very well thought out and well produced reviews, but also show you, well, actually, if we're all being honest with each other, it's about having fun. And that's why I like it. It strikes a very, very good middle ground. Shut up and sit down. And that is it. Like I said, I only wanted to do 10 in this video because I want to turn this into maybe a bi-monthly or monthly series, or just whenever I've got about another 10 channels that I want to talk about and go through and feature. If you have any suggestions for channels that you think I or other people watching might like, then by all means put them in comments. I would love to hear what you put in there. That's one of the reasons why I did this as well. And by all means, go and check these people out. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I want to do this. I want to bring attention to these people. Obviously, some of them are massive channels on this list, some of them are not. By all means, if you're interested, go and check them out, go and give them a like, go and subscribe, things like that. As always, hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and generic partings.